Hello and welcome to Film Seizure. My name is Chuck Moore. With me, as always, are my co-hosts Jeff Arbuckle. Say, hey, Jeff.
Jeff was here.
Jeff was here. Also, we have Jason Oliver. Hello, Jason Oliver.
Jason was too.
As you no doubt can infer from these two jokes hanging on the wall above your head, this week
one joke and one body.
Oh, they took the body down, Jeff.
Well, I mean, maybe. I'm surprised they did that.
So, Shawshank Redemption, 1994, by Frank Darabont, based on a novella by Stephen King called Rita Hayworth and Shawshank Redemption. Rita Hayworth being obviously, now that I've seen the movie and read the book, you know why Rita Hayworth is in the title. But when you first see that, you're like, "What? Rita Hayworth and the Shawshank Redemption? What the hell does that mean?"
I do have one criticism of the title. I wish it was Rita Hayworth and the Shawshank Redemption.
I even say it that way.
I know that's what I thought it was, and I was like, "Wait, that's not it. That's Stephen King. What are you doing?"
But it's a curious title, and it's also like the movie drops.
It doesn't need the.
Well, I think it flows better with the.
But it's a redemption of Shawshank, so Shawshank Redemption. It's not a the. You don't need a the.
I agree, but they put it on when they named the movie.
Yeah,
sure they did.
Which they dropped the Rita Hayworth, and they just called it the Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah.
They thought about calling it the Raquel Welch and the Shawshank Redemption.
They could have done that. They could have done that.
Marilyn Monroe and the
Yeah.
Shawshank Redemption. Anyway,
But yes, the ladies play a pretty big role in this movie, even though they're just posters.
Also, like that it shows like the passage of time and the change of there's a lot of different ways you can do passage of decades and time and eras and stuff, and yet those posters are perfect.
yeah.
Yes,
Agreed.
you go from black and white posters to color to like all sorts of
The
stuff
40s
there.
to the 60s, yeah.
I had read this novella when I was a kid.
That was going to be my next question.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it wasn't my favorite because I was probably too young, I think, when I read it. And I don't know. I probably read it like early 90s around the same time. No, I probably read it around the same time I read The Stand or The Body after finding out The Stand was based on it. Right? Like sometime after that, I was like, well,
That would make sense
that.
because the body was in the same book.
Yes. So
I think.
Yes, yeah. And I sought out that book because of the movie The Stand.
Yeah, App Pupil's in there too.
It is, and I always forget that Stephen King.
Mm-hmm.
What's wild about that is two of my favorite movies of all time are novellas in that book, which is crazy.
Yeah.
What's the other?
Stand by Me.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Sorry, I said The Stand earlier, but I meant Stand by Me is based on the body.
Right. Gotcha. Yeah. Okay.
And App Pupil pretty darn good too.
It was a good movie. That's Singer, right? Did that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good one too.
With the late Brad Renfro.
Yeah. It adds like a little bit of credence to the old argument about King not being able to end long stories and stuff like that because he's really good at those short, contained, non-supernatural stories he does.
You would say all filler, no killer, right?
Yes, all filler, no killer. Exactly. 100%.
All killer, no filler. It was no filler. No filler, all killer. That's what it is. Or all killer, no filler. I think that's what it is.
You decide what it is.
All killer, no filler. That's what it is.
Yes.
Yes. That's what he calls it, anyway.
Yeah, and he's right. Yeah. He's right about that. And he's continued to be right about that in a lot of ways. A lot of his short stories are still very, very good. Mm-hmm. And his son also took that from him. And probably his mom, too. Yeah. But so, yeah, that's my story with this. I saw this movie shortly after it came out. I don't think I saw it in the theater. I probably saw like Pulp Fiction that year and a couple other things. in the theater and caught this when it hit home video. But fell in love like immediately.
It was a massive, massive home video.
Yeah.
Release.
Yeah, because not a lot of people saw it in the theater. It was one of those Academy Award things, right? Like nobody sees it, it hits the awards, and then everyone's like, hey, I missed that one.
Yep.
And then it wins stuff. I can't remember what it won. One of you guys will know for sure. Or maybe you won't know if it won. Maybe it didn't win. But it was nominated for like 7.
It was nominated for 7. It did not win any.
Yeah.
Which is kind of surprising now that like watching this movie back.
What's interesting is that, so this is one where
this was the year of Forrest Gump for one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was already up against it in all of these categories. But yeah, I mean, it's got like recognizable names of people being nominated. So like you have Roger Deakins,
good Best Picture year too. Yeah,
it's
one of his many losses. Roger Deakins. Yeah.
He didn't win until the last few years, right?
Yeah,
I think
I have to look, but yeah,
one of his losses, which I mean, I bring this up because it's a big reason why it's my favorite is Skyfall.
Yeah.
That was one of his losses.
He ended up winning for Blade Runner 2049, I think, is what he finally won for. Yeah.
And then he won another 1917, I think. Or not?
Was that him?
Yeah, I think it was. Let me look.
But also you have Thomas Newman. His first nomination was this year for that, and I think maybe he might have been nominated
you were right,
twice.
Chuck, 1917. Yeah.
Just crazy the amount of good movies Deakins has done, like all the good Coen Brothers films. Sorry about that.
But yeah, this is also one of those ones where every year back then, back when there were the 5 nominees for Best Picture, there was always one nominee that did not get the Best Director, and you knew right then it wasn't going to win.
Yeah.
And this was the one because it was Darabont's first.
Yeah.
Which probably set him. So they said, you know what? You'll get the adapted screenplay nomination. Oh, by the way, you're going to go up against Forrest Gump.
Well, and they nominated Kieslowski for 3 Colors Red this year as well, which is and it didn't get nominated for Best Picture. So it's another one of those weird ones where it's like, well, you know what's not going to win Best Picture or Best Director.
You already know what's not gonna win those 2 categories.
Yeah.
I have a question because we do this sometimes and we've done it before in like special episodes. I think at the time I probably liked this movie more than Forrest Gump. I'm pretty sure.
Sure.
But now like it feels like this would beat that movie.
Yes.
See,
more than likely.
I don't know if I saw Shawshank until after the Academy Awards.
I'm guessing I didn't either, but
I saw Forrest Gump in the theater. I did not see Shawshank in the theater.
Yeah.
I didn't see it until video.
Were you a Forrest Gump? Did you like Forrest Gump?
I was like 15 or so.
I mean, it's a cute movie. I mean, like you can still think fondly of it, you know.
Yes, I like
and
it.
It's obviously like this was one of those crowd pleaser nominations that ended up pleasing all the way up through winning, you know. So it was
kind of a technical marvel too in some aspects, right?
Like cutting him into the things that they did. Sure.
You see, there's a new not Forrest Gump, but a Tom Hanks and Robin Penn, Robin Wright movie with coming out. Yeah,
it's all shot from one camera angle.
Yeah, and it's like over like generations of time or something.
Technically, like millions of years.
Wow!
Because it starts with like dinosaur era. Yeah.
Huh. Interesting.
So I mean, like the nominees were it was Forrest Gump, 4 Weddings and a Funeral. That was the other one that didn't get nominated for Best Director.
Pulp Fiction,
Quiz Show, and Shawshank Redemption. I mean, probably retrospectively, it would probably be either this or Pulp Fiction. This movie gets a lot of now present day praise out of those 5. I mean, even more so, I think, than Pulp Fiction.
It's like Library of Congress and shit.
It's consistently like ranked in the top 10 on IMDb, and like it is probably one of it will go down in history as one of the greatest American films ever.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny because like I did look at the Siskel and Ebert clip when they reviewed this, and as much as Ebert liked it, Siskel liked it even more, and he said that the movie it reminds him most of is One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. And it's like, that's good company to be in.
I see that too. Yeah,
because it's about the oppression of the state.
Yeah, on top. It's the institution, right?
Yep.
And those within it, and they're trying to their struggle to maintain an individuality and hope, right?
The only difference is who wins, right?
Yeah.
Like
yeah. I mean, the chief didn't even give it a chance to say, "Go find this box by this tree." It's like he's like, "Here's a pillow."
Chief is kind of our Brooks, right? And Jack is
Red.
Chief. Yeah. Doesn't Chief die?
No, Chief wins.
Chief kills.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
He's our Red then. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
but no, it's different.
What's his name? Well, we got to kind of have a couple in there with the Brad Dourif character. He could kind of be our Tommy.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, because like he's the one who really shouldn't be there. Like Tommy's too smart to be there, but he keeps screwing up. Yeah. We'll get to him later. And Brad Dourif's Charlie Babbitt is like he was put away because his parents didn't like his stuttering.
Yeah.
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 So sad characters either way.
Comparison though, I like that. Yeah.
Yes.
Quiz show is what we've got to do at some point.
At some point, absolutely. I mean, to be honest with you, I mean we could even probably talk Forrest Gump. This was a pretty good year, really.
Yeah, it really is. It's a great year.
Yep. It's one we discussed doing when we did the 90s, but we did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
So Andy Dufresne. No, I can't do it. Maybe I can kind of do it, Morgan Freeman.
You gotta go deeper.
You gotta go.
Andy Dufresne. I'm no Frank.
Yeah, that's all right.
Thank you. We should get Frank Caliendo on here to do this episode with us.
I forgot about that
guy. But he would end up coming on and doing his John Madden impression instead, and it'd be really weird.
So John Madden in Shawshank Redemption, that would be good.
Andy Dufresne, he's a banker, a young banker, who is, we see in the beginning, he's sitting in a car getting drunk. He has a gun that he's loading. We find out through, it's really cool the way they do the exposition almost in all parts of this movie, how they tell you about each character and what is happening. Because this is the lawyer recounting back the
DA,
or the DA, recounting back his wife and her lover getting shot, and how Andy Dufresne had been at the house of this man and was sitting outside drunk, left footprints all over the place, but conveniently it broke a glass with his DNA. Did they say DNA? It would have been too early for DNA.
No, fingerprints everywhere. Fingerprints on the bullets that fell out of his lap, because he had more than the bullets needed than the 8 needed for his revolver.
Right.
And then there was the broken glass that also had the broken bottle of his booze that also had his fingerprints all over the place. And then basically it's like, there's no, like, all the evidence is here,
except for one thing that could categorically prove he did it, or categorically prove he didn't, which is the gun that they could have matched the bullets against to see if they had the same signature.
Because he says, I didn't kill my wife. I threw the gun into the lake and went home and sobered up, or whatever.
Right.
Yeah. And they're like, we don't need the gun. We got everything else that we need.
But we know, at least I think we know, I know this now, and I think the first time you watch this movie, that he is in fact innocent. There's no like delusion over his guilt.
I say that's pretty cleverly done.
I think it's left open until later.
Until
maybe
Tommy
I had
comes.
read the story, and obviously I know it now. So maybe
Sure. It did have been a while since I'd seen it, so I was puzzling through the whole movie trying to remember. It's like, is he actually guilty or is he not?
Yeah,
okay,
he's not, but I don't think that's clear. That's apparent.
I'm with you. Yeah. Sorry.
Until later. Chuck, I don't remember if I've even ever read the short story, which is funny.
That's interesting.
But I do remember when I saw this movie. This would have been sophomore year in boarding school, and it was one of those weird situations where I got invited by one of my fellow students to go to his family's house for the weekend because he lived up in Corning, New York, and it wasn't that far from Scranton where I went to school.
Right.
So his parents came to pick him up for like the weekend, and he took me and one other kid, and we stayed with them for the weekend, and that was a weird trip. Like, it was strange, because he was part of like this kind of offshoot of Catholicism called what's it called?
The mass holes.
No.
Sorry, I was just giving you time to think.
Charismatics.
Oh, okay.
So they're the ones that like speak in tongues. Like, yes, even Catholics have tongue speakers. And so that was weird because we went to his church, and there were like some of his friends from the church were like speaking in tongues at this service, and I was like, "What the fuck is going on?" It's like, this isn't Catholicism I ever heard of. And then,
except for in The Exorcist,
but we go to but his parents, they rented Shawshank Redemption for us to watch, and we watched it that night. And I remember just being totally locked into this movie, like, blew me away. Like,
it's enthralling.
Absolutely loved it, and it's kind of like it's in the pantheon of those movies that I saw in high school, like with Lawrence of Arabia and Dead Poet Society and things.
I was going to say Dead Poet Society.
That like really kind of cracked my head open a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And it was one of the first movies that really kind of like get me into more types of movies than like Rambo and Predator and stuff like that.
It helped you grow up, put you into Jeff's maturity level that he had been in for 10 years already.
Yeah, I mean, it really was.
There's always room for Rambo, though.
Yeah, true.
It affected me for sure. Yeah, but I also, like, I remember thinking, we don't know if he did it or not, right? It's kind of like because you're going along with this movie, and you're on his side, obviously, the whole time.
But you are a little bit of a jerk.
But there's something in the back of your head is like, did he do it or not? Yeah, exactly.
Right.
I kind of wish I could have seen it from that perspective the first time, like, because again, I read it probably too early, didn't appreciate it, but knew what happened. You know,
yeah,
you know what
enough.
I mean?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Totally.
Well, and the thing is also, it's like the really great thing about this movie is that there are, I mean, a good chunk of the people in Shawshank have done awful, extremely violent, terrible things.
Sure. Whatever. They're all innocent.
Right. Yeah, but at the same time, though, it's like you just kind of like them. You know, it's like there's you are there with them to the point where it's like it is more important to think of them as humans.
Yes.
Than it is to think of them as what we would typically think of criminals on the outside of the walls, which is they belong there.
They do two clever things in this movie, and I think they're both super smart. They don't tell you what anyone did to get there.
Right.
Right? So you don't know what Red did.
You find out what Red did.
You know he killed someone, but yeah.
Yes, later, but you don't know it for the part of the movie where you're getting to know them. You have no idea what they've done.
Right.
Which allows you to put yourself in their shoes because you don't have another thing fighting against it. You just know that they could have robbed a bank. They could have,
it's entirely possible that more than one of the sisters committed a nonviolent crime, and that they are there to inflict the pain to avoid getting pain. Does that make sense?
The bulls? Yeah.
Yeah.
They call them the sisters and the bull queers.
The bull queers,
I think is the other name that they use. But yeah, I mean.
Oh, and then the warden just straight up calls them the sodomites.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is like Andy references this later. Like I wasn't a criminal until I came to prison.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Like I know a lot of these people probably did stuff to deserve to be there, but they became worse criminals probably in the joint.
That's a line that always stuck with me too, because I think about boarding school when I see this movie, and I think about, I never got drunk or high until I went to boarding school.
Right. Like, so the place they sent you to reform you,
right,
to rehabilitate you, which is also a theme in this movie. What is rehabilitation? Right. It's not overt, but it's there.
Yeah.
It's interesting. But regardless of Andy's innocence or not, he gets convicted. And he is sent to, what's that place called? Shawshank. He's sent to Shawshank. Sorry, bad joke.
Which, incidentally, I've been to the place where they shot this.
Where is it?
It's in Mansfield, Ohio. I spent every summer of my childhood in Mansfield, Ohio, because that's where my mom's parents lived.
So they actually shot it on that location that wasn't just exterior? Or
good question. I don't know if they used any interiors or not, but I know that exterior of what Shawshank is the Mansfield Reformatory, and it's also supposedly haunted.
Yeah, I was going to say it's probably on Ghost Adventures. I'm sure Eastern State Penitentiary, Mansfield Correctional.
Well, the front of it does look like when they're doing that air shot into it as Andy's arriving. You're like, that place is haunted.
Yeah.
Like it totally looks like a haunted place.
It's like a famously haunted place. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. It's in Jane Mansfield, Ohio.
It's in hanging out with Rita Hayward.
Yeah. But yeah, as he's going in, you start to meet the other inmates, and Red's the only name I remember because they don't spend a lot of time telling you names in this movie.
No, but you got Death in there from Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey.
That's the stuttering dude, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he is hang on a second here. The key people, so Haywood, that's Haywood. Haywood is the next best friend. It's like the three of them are pretty tight.
Yeah.
And then you have, of course, you have Brooks, who's the old one, who's the old man. He's been there. Yeah, he's been there for 50 years or something, or 45 years or whatever.
It's his 50th year that he gets released.
Yes, and he cares for a raven chick that fell out of its nest.
Oh man, I love
and
that.
keeps that damn raven forever. That raven will know. I mean, like that raven has checked in on Brooks and is quite upset today. Let's put it that way.
Ravens and crows are incredibly intelligent.
Yeah, they have facial recognition.
Yeah.
What I love about Brooks and the Raven, like at the beginning, when Andy sits down with his meal and there's a worm crawling in his gloop, and you're like, this is a prison. And when the guy says, are you going to eat that? You're like, he wants to fucking eat the worm because the food is so bad. But then you realize he has a little birdie in his pocket.
Yeah, a little birdie. Yeah. And then the key people also to know are the
Sam Norton, the warden.
Sam Norton, the warden, and Hadley, Captain Hadley. Who is Clancy Brown? Holy shit,
he's
Clancy Brown!
In this movie.
Everything he's ever in, he's terrifying.
I've seen him in things he's not, but everything he's supposed to be terrifying, he definitely is.
Oh, absolutely! Pet Cemetery 2 is the best.
Pet Cemetery 2.
That's the best thing about that movie.
Yes. Oh, he is the best. He is the best thing in that. I agree. Obviously, the Kurgan in Highlander, which was like God, he made that like 6-7 years before this.
McLeod.
Oh yeah, I mean, probably longer than that. I think.
When did Highlander come out?
The first Highlander was 84 or 5.
Oh, geez, so like almost 10 years. Yeah, yeah.
And then, of course, but the most of the movie centers on really 3 people. It's Andy, Red, and Norton.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's, I mean, and then Hadley is he's the enforcer, but he's,
Hadley's the right arm of Samuel Norton. So.
Right. But Norton, Red, and Andy are the ones who move the plot in the various directions it goes. Yeah.
And I don't even know if Red does honestly move the plot.
Maybe not. Yeah. I mean, to be honest with you, maybe not. Yeah.
He's more of a reteller, a recounter. Yeah. Sorry, Jason.
He's certainly telling the story.
I was just going to say that Bob Gunton, Samuel Norton, is in Jeff's favorite movie of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Demolition Man.
Mm-hmm.
Demolition Man. Okay.
Yep, he's the chief of police.
Thanks for not making me guess.
I've got and I mean, to be honest with you, there's a lot of good parallels here between Shawshank Redemption and Demolition Man.
Here we go.
God.
With Crisis on Infinite Earths next.
I'm trying to figure out a way to fit Star Trek into
But seriously, that guy, Bob Gunton, he's one of those faces. He showed up in all sorts of stuff. Hell, he was in, weird. He was in the stage play, the stage version of Amadeus. He played Salieri.
Oh, wow.
I could totally see that.
I could too. But yeah, he was one of those faces in like the 90s and aughts where he'd show up in weird.
Oh yeah, that's right. He was on Daredevil also. He was the owl.
He's in Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil.
Claiborne. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he's all over the place.
All over the place. Good character.
But in this movie, he is the pious. Did I say that right? Pious,
Yeah.
pious, yeah, pious.
Yeah.
Warden. At least he portrays that he's very religious. Like he tells the inmates, like, there's God in me.
Yeah, trust in the Lord, but your ass belongs to me or something.
Yes.
Like that. Yeah.
Dude, I should look at my notes.
Is that what it was? Yeah.
Yeah, he says, put your trust in the Lord, your ass belongs to me.
Yeah.
Which I've heard, there's many quotes from this movie, many or at least a few that are pretty commonly said now that I was like, that's from this movie? I didn't even remember that, like, being from this movie, but I don't know if I wrote any of the other ones down. I probably should have. But like I said, Red and his group of friends are basically betting on which inmate is going to cry the first night.
Yeah.
And Red picks Andy, and everyone else picks somebody else, of course. And it ends up being the fat guy. Right. The fat dude cries. And it's funny because you have those levels of intimidation. What's the buddy's name, Jeff? You said it one. Haywood. Yeah. Haywood is giving the fat dude a hard time.
Yes, because he bet on him to crack. And he's trying to like egg him on a little bit to like to get to put the fear into him so that he'll
he's
crack.
pulling the Hannibal Lecter to multiple MIGs.
Yeah, pretty much. He just doesn't throw any.
No, but he's talking him into the end goal that he wants.
But then when what's his face Hadley comes in.
That's where you see the levels.
He's like, shut up. Yeah. He's like no, you gotta stop. I want my bed. I don't want it to go any worse for you now. Yeah.
Yeah. Because like when he breaks, he's like, he's like, I don't belong here. It's all a mistake. And so he just beats him to death.
Yeah, he does. Yeah. They took him to the infirmary, but the doc had gone home and he just sat there and died.
Yeah.
But then Andy does something interesting.
Like, so fucking brutal.
It is brutal. Well, this was the 40s or the 50s, 40s at this point.
47 would have been when the first year. Yeah, 47.
But you have your clues here, your first clue of Andy having hope and decency, and the other inmates have had it basically beaten out of them because Andy asks what his name was when he finds out he dies.
Yeah.
And Haywood's like, what the fuck does it matter? He's dead. Like they've lost all of that.
They're losing their humanity.
Yeah, their humanity. Yeah.
And Andy is he's the one who keeps hope alive throughout the whole movie. Yeah.
Yep. Through some of the worst shit I could ever imagine happening to a person. Like
when they go through the whole sequence of, so Andy has caught the eye of the leader of the what do they call them? The sisters.
The sisters. Yeah.
And they essentially they corner him and beat and rape him at every opportunity. And when Red said that the first 2 years must have been were the worst for Andy. It's like, oh my God, he went through that for 2 years, like trying to fight them off and not usually winning. It's like, it's like so heartbreaking.
Well, yeah, and then Red even says the prison is not a fairy tale.
Yeah.
Like this shit fucking happens. It's heartbreaking.
It is.
And Andy has a fortuitous moment, right? Like Red is taken to liking Andy because he kind of just floats through the place. Like he still sees the humanity in him. Like he's unbothered by where he is almost, right? To a point. I mean, getting beaten and raped probably took a little out of him, right? But
and that's when and Red even says it. He says if things didn't change for him, this place probably would have gotten the better of him too, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
But Red puts in a word because Red's a getter, right? And he can bring whatever anyone needs into the prison within reason.
Yeah.
And somehow he's in good with some of the security officers or whatever you call it. Are they called security officers in prison?
They're called correctional officers.
Yeah, correctional. Thank you. I've never been to prison.
Yet.
Still time.
Yes, he's that kind of guy who can get what people want. And honestly, he probably is a lot of the prison guards' drug dealer too, right?
Oh, I would imagine.
Like he's getting them stuff that they wouldn't know how to get on the outside.
Well, it's got to be the best place to do a deal too.
Right. So yeah. Oh yeah. It's all like, I scratch your back, you scratch mine. You know, there's certainly some quid pro quo that he has with the guards on. Yeah.
Yeah. So Andy, and I don't know if we'll just cover this part and then talk about the poster.
Sure.
That the poster is actually later.
Yeah.
So Red gets them on the detail on a roof, which is working outside. It's like feeling like a free man kind of thing. And while they're painting the roof, Andy's listening to
Hadley talk. Yeah.
Thank you. Hadley talk about the fact that his brother died and he only left him $35,000 of his $1 million that he had, which in the 40s is insane. $35,000 is insane.
That's a lot of money. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
it also goes to show you how Hadley thinks even of his brother.
Well,
he's a piece of shit.
Yeah, he's a piece of shit.
His brother thinks of him.
Probably,
much,
yeah,
right?
Absolutely. But but he is like Hadley doesn't like anyone. You know, it's like, because he even gives he talks shit to his own men from time to time too.
Correctional officer would probably take it out of you just as much. Not sure. Just as much, but
in a different way than being a prisoner.
Yeah, but it would take it out of you. Yeah. Right? Like it would change you. Especially back then where they were fucking killing people and there were no checks and balances on what happened in prisons. I don't know if they're any better now, but I'm sure it's dicey.
I'm sure Andy Dufresne is still writing letters to get the book.
2 a week it's probably like 5 a week at this point.
$35,000, mind you, in $1949, because I figure that was 2 years later.
Sure.
Is
$1 million?
Almost $500,000.
Almost $500,000.
Yeah.
So that's like 15% or 15 times.
I mean,
I don't know if I'm doing the math right, but it's a lot.
That's probably $35,000 in 1949. My guess would be like 10-year salary for that guy.
Right. And he says I could buy a car. And I'm like, dude, you could buy a car today with the money that
you could. Honestly, that could have just been like bad writing.
Right. It could have been.
Yeah.
Like a cell phone showing up too modern.
I mean, not quite that egregious, but yeah.
I know. I'm just.
Yeah.
But Andy hears all this. And like I said earlier, he's a banker and he knows a way for Hadley to keep all the money, which is to do a one-time spousal gift to his wife. And she won't have to pay taxes on it. And all the while, like Hadley is hanging him over the roof because he thinks he's giving him shit. Right? He's like, well, I'm going to fucking drop you right now. But eventually he listens to him. And Andy's like, I'll tell you exactly how to do it. If you give all the men on this roof, this detail, 3 beers is basically the deal. And we find out that Hadley does care about money, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because he grants them that deal. And that puts Andy in a really good place because he's now ingratiated himself with the guard and he's ingratiated himself with everyone that was on that roof.
He's also really smart because he's like, it's not, you won't get in trouble because the guy's like, yeah, y'all end up in here with you or something like that. He's like, no, it's completely legal. And I'm sure you would have found this out on your own. He patronizes him a little bit.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm sure you would have found this out on your own, but I just wanted to let you know. But it's also going to cost like lawyer fees and accountant fees to set it all up. But I could do that for you.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because the reason why the original reason why Hadley gets pissed is that he says, "Do you trust your wife?"
Right.
He's like, "What the fuck do you mean by that?"
Yeah,
because there's the law is you can give your spouse a one-time gift of under $60,000.
Yes, up to $60,000. Yeah. That's kind of the funny thing about it. It's just like dramatic writing because. Come on, you don't lead with that, Andy.
Right, right. Especially for how smart Andy is.
And how smart he is, and how you've seen this guy's brutality. Yeah, yeah. Which is whatever, but it makes for a great scene.
Yeah.
but yeah, Jeff, do you want to talk about what happens next and how?
So basically, he sets this all up for him, which then leads to him doing half the guy's tax returns the following spring.
Yeah.
The following year, the entire staff's taxes. The next year, they scheduled it at the same time they were doing a prison, 2 prisons playing in a softball game. So he did both prisons.
Yeah.
And eventually, it works its way all the way up to the warden.
Oh, yeah. Yes, it does. Yeah.
So the warden catches wise of this guy knows what he's doing. But all the while, Red is... trying to suss out what was Andy's purpose. And he's like, does he want to feel like he's on the outside? Does he want to feel like he's doing a job that he feels important again? Or is he trying to curry favor with the guards?
And he doesn't even he turns down the beer. He said, I gave it up.
I gave up drinking.
Which to me, it almost lends itself to the idea that he did do it, right?
Right.
Because he gave up drinking. He would.
Oh yes, he's punishing himself.
If he killed his wife, he would have done it while he was drinking. Because we know he even admitted he was drinking, right? Yeah, that's just yeah.
But also, not to interrupt, but
go right ahead.
He's doing all this in the library with Brooks because that's where they set him up to do this thing. They're he's like, Brooks, have you ever had an assistant in all your time here? And
it's like, when did you get here? He's like, oh, I got here in 3. And it's like, and it's like, when did you become the librarian? Oh, in 12?
Yeah.
So
and
it's
also,
he's never had anybody else.
We should mention too that the warden goes to see him. They turn down all the cells, and it's an excuse for the warden to meet Andy. And they go through his cell. They look and even Hadley is like, there's some contraband here, but nothing to get in a twist about. But there's a great
exceptions
scene.
can be made.
Yeah, exceptions can be made. Yeah, this is very much like setting up the quid pro quo, right? But the scene that's like the best part that like becomes a juicy morsel by the end of the movie is the Bible, right?
Mm-hmm.
I won't give it away yet, but the Bible is in Andy's hands when he comes in, when the warden comes in. The warden takes it, doesn't open it, but he takes it, and they start exchanging Bible passages. And then the warden almost leaves with it, and it's like, oh, I forgot. And he passes it through the bars of the cell after it's been closed, and he's like, salvation lies within. It's like, oh, that's good.
It is. It is good. And I like I don't have the full quote, but the first thing Andy says to him is something about being mindful when the master of the house cometh.
Yes.
So his quote is directed at the warden.
And he picks up on it too.
Yes.
The warden is no dummy. Yeah.
Yeah. One other piece of housekeeping, because it's extremely important, is because Rita Hayworth's already on the wall.
Yes.
Right. In the thing. And we have to talk about how it gets there.
Yeah.
So because Andy gets his ass beat by the sisters
that night.
Yeah. Because like he wants two things. He wants a poster because he's already gotten the rock hammer.
Yes. The first thing he requests from Red.
Right. And Red's like, what, are you going to bust out of here? It's like,
or you're going to kill somebody.
Kill somebody. And when Red sees it's like, oh, it's going to take 60,000 years to get out of here. I
like how like Andy laughs. He's like, you'll get it. You'll get the joke when you see it.
Yeah. Because a rock hammer's tiny. It's like, it almost looks like one of those reflex hammers.
It tells him he wants to make chess pieces. And at this point in time, that's actually what he wants to do.
Yeah. He's like, I got time. I got to do something with it. Because Red had made mention that, the number one thing you got to do in prison is keep your mind busy.
Yeah.
And so, but he's like, yeah, I want soapstone, and what was the other?
I can't remember
what the other one was. But Red's like, it's going to take forever. He's like, I got the time.
Time is the one thing I have.
Yeah. Right. So, so it's all setting up how patient Andy Dufresne is. And so, so it's like Red, when Andy gets beat up and has to spend a month in the infirmary, and whichever one of the sisters beats
Bugs or Dougs or something like that. I can't remember.
Whatever. But anyway,
Boggs. I think it was Boggs.
Because it's right after they go. Andy goes into the movie theater. They're watching. I don't know what Rita Hayworth.
Gilda.
Is it Gilda? Or they're watching Gilda, and it's her famous scene where she throws her hair back and when she enters the frame, and they're all very excited about it. And it's like, I've seen it 3 times already.
Seen it 3 times this week.
This week. But that's when he tells them what he needs. He needs Rita Hayworth.
He needs Rita Hayworth, and he wants those stones.
And he's like, well, it's going to take some time. I mean, I don't have her in my pants as much as I wish I did.
Andy Dufresne.
But that's when he has the encounter with the sisters again. It's in the projection booth room.
Yep, because they kicked the projection. He's like, I got to change reels. It's like, do it later.
Hey, that's projectionist, like, choosing their job. They're like, I'm in the union, man. I got to do this shit.
Yeah.
But he kind of saves his mouth and his ass.
Yes, because he hits him in the head with a reel, and
that would hurt. That would fucking hurt.
It would hurt. And Boggs pulls out like a screwdriver or some kind of ice picky looking thing.
Anything you put in your mouth isn't coming back. It's like, damn.
He's like, I'll
shove this into your ear. And he's like, you know what happens when something gets stabbed into the head, and sometimes you have to pry the jaws with a crowbar.
With a crowbar, is like, so they just beat the shit out of him badly, and he ends up in the infirmary for 2 weeks. Was it 2 weeks?
Month.
He's in there for a month. Boggs is in solitary for
a week or two. Yeah.
And then so Andy gaining favor with the guards comes into play here.
Yes,
because when Boggs gets out of his time in the hole, Hadley is waiting for him in his cell, and they beat the ever-loving shit out of him.
So badly that they transfer him to a minimum security prison.
Right.
Like, seriously, beat him senseless.
Well, he can't walk anymore.
They take him to the cuckoo's nest.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He can't walk
RP
anymore.
McMurphy shows up.
Yeah.
He can't walk anymore, and then the bull queers never attack or mess with Andy again.
Nope.
So that is being on the roof afforded Andy the rest of his life, basically. So Red kind of saves his life a little bit with that little favor of getting him the roof detail.
Yep. Yeah, because Red manipulated that whole draw.
Yeah, but then he sees the opportunity and he saves himself, right?
Yes. He took advantage of a good circumstance.
Yeah, he saw the opening he needed. Yeah.
So basically, that's what gets him that, and he's been that was the other thing also. It's like they're trying to find the various stones, and Haywood finds one. It's like, I don't know which one this is, and it's like, well, it's not a stone. I can't remember what they call it.
It was calcified cow turds is what it was.
Yeah, it was petrified cow turds.
Cow turds, yeah.
A space puck or something. I can't remember what he calls it. Something
it was anyway. So and it's like they get him that, and the most important thing was the poster. Even Red said it was the most important thing for his recovery, for his getting out of the infirmary, was the poster.
But this is the Marilyn Monroe poster.
No,
it was the Rita Hayworth.
It's Rita Hayworth.
Oh, does he get the other one? Oh, you're right.
Yeah, because the other two just comes.
He goes from Rita Hayworth to Marilyn Monroe to Raquel Welch.
Yeah.
Well, he gets the other one as a return gift. So I think
no,
he does. He gets one of them as a return gift, and there's a note with it.
No, that's
Rita Hayworth.
That's Rita Hayworth. Because it was going to take some time, and he goes to the hole right after, or goes to the infirmary right after he asked for it.
Yeah.
So when he comes
back,
it
gave Red all the time.
All the rocks. Yeah.
So because this was the most difficult thing that Red could procure, because the poster had, like, you had to figure out a way to get the poster in, which was not because they even say the poster is not great, but we can make an exception on that.
Around this time we find out that the warden is also he's got a new program.
He's got something he wants to do.
Outside program for the inmates, and it seems great, like integrating them back into society, teaching them an honest day's work. But in reality, what it is he's a contractor contracting out his prisoners as manual labor for cheap and undercutting all of the other contracting business in the area.
Because he doesn't have to pay anyone. It's slave labor. Yeah.
And the money he does get, he's
skimming. He's skimming. Yeah.
He's skimming it. Yeah. It's not going back into the prison system. It's not going back into anything other than his pocket, basically.
Yeah. And Andy describes it all to Red pretty masterfully, that, he's, it's all set up under an account that only he, it's like, basically it's all set up under an assumed name with, what is the name?
Randall Stevens.
Randall
Stevens. Yeah.
Yeah. That's such a Stephen King name.
Randall. He loves Randall.
Yeah. Anyway, so basically he and he manages the books of this criminal undertaking.
Yeah. He's laundering the money.
And he's explaining how, basically he's explaining money laundering exactly how the anti-money laundering video I have to watch every year describes it, and basically how to rotate it around so that it's it's clean.
Watch an anti-money laundering video every year?
Oh yeah.
Really?
Oh yeah, because nonprofits are the number one way to launder money, particularly for terrorists.
That's bizarre, though. They have to. Okay. All right.
Yeah,
I've never laundered money.
In case you see something, say something. Is that the
basically because there are so many countries that you can't do business with. but they will try to set up organizations that will help people in those countries.
Sure.
And so it's like, that's where you got to watch out for that.
Not to derail the movie conversation more, but was that going on when I was there and I've just forgotten about it? Or is that a newer?
I never
it's been around for about 10 years. Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah.
I might have been gone then, but that's neither here nor there. Around this time too. So we didn't talk a lot about Brooks, but he was the 50-year vet librarian there. And he gets let out, and he almost kills Haywood, or threatens to kill Haywood, so he can stay in the joint, right? Like he doesn't want to leave.
All Haywood was trying to do was tell him happy trails, basically.
Yeah. And honestly, you can understand it. He's an old man. He works in the library. He has friends. He has his crow or his raven. Mm-hmm. What the fuck is he going to do on the outside? Right?
Well, that's one underlining thing throughout this entire movie is the fear. It's like you live in fear inside. I mean, to borrow from Donnie Darko a little bit, fear gets you into trouble. Then you live in fear in the prison, and then you become institutionalized to the point where it's like you're afraid of what life. And by the time Brooks comes out, he even talks about it's like
Swayze.
Yeah. But when he comes out, tell me the forcibly. Anyway,
but he writes that letter about.
But he writes a letter about how he's seen a car when he was a little kid, and that the world has gone too fast. The world is going too fast now, and it's like he's walking in the road where before he would have.
It's great writing,
and like the car almost hits him because. It's not. Well,
he says I saw a car as a kid. So imagine him getting out now, and they're fucking everywhere. It's like it's
everybody is in a hurry to get somewhere now.
Yeah. It would be like if you got incarcerated, having been a child of the '80s, and then come out and it's the fucking Jetsons, right? Like
pretty much, yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so it impacts him a lot, and he talks about in that letter how he has a job, but his hands hurt, and he's too slow, and he doesn't want to do
groceries. But his
boss doesn't like him.
He's like 70 years old.
Yeah, and he writes in there that he wants to leave, and wanting to leave for him is leaving the earth, basically.
Yeah.
And it's
he thinks about I could just shoot him. I could just shoot my boss, and
that's a bonus. That would be a bonus.
That would be a bonus. Yeah, that would get me back to Shawshank.
Yeah, rob the grocery store, shoot the boss as a bonus.
I'm too old for that kind of foolishness.
Yeah. Well, and he talks about like how he does the one thing he kind of did with Jake, which was he goes and feeds the birds, hoping that maybe Jake would show up.
It's like,
and he doesn't. So that's pretty much the end.
It's heart hurt.
It's like that's basically the last straw. It's like everything has left him. Everything he knew is gone.
We should mention too that the movie is also intercut with 3 moments of Red before parole board.
Yes.
And the first moment, he is like trying to get out. Like he thinks he might be able to tell them what they want to hear. And they deny.
Oh yes, I am very.
The second time he says what he says the first time, but with no conviction,
no emotion. Yeah,
because he's becoming institutionalized, right?
Well, he's also tired of the disappointment.
And we'll talk about he's cynical. He's despondent. He has no hope. We'll talk about the third time in a little bit.
Yeah,
right.
So Brooks writes, as you guys joked about in the beginning, Brooks was here on the wall of the halfway house that he was helped to get by the prison board or whomever.
I would imagine it's the parole board gets you that. Yeah.
And then he hangs himself.
Yes.
And it's super sad. And then you have the conversation between all the guys. And this is important because it comes back up with Andy later.
So important.
Yeah, but Red explains to everyone he's institutionalized. He can't, as Jeff said, he can't find a way to live in the outside world is the basic premise here.
And the young guys were like, "Oh, I can't ever imagine that." And then the one guy who's a little bit older is like, "Yeah, well, talk to me when you're here for 50 years.
Yeah.
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 Because they're starting to feel it, right?
Really sad.
There's levels of this within their friend group, and there's an understanding and there's a fear, right?
And up to this point, the one exception is Andy. He's steadfast. He almost doesn't. I mean, he doesn't even really act like a prisoner. You know, he's the same person until a moment that comes up a little bit later. But
he's so steadfast in what he wants. He'll get, like, he is writing a letter every week.
Yeah.
To state,
when he takes over the library,
Congress, right, to get like funding for the library.
Oh my God, that's so funny because there's two funny lines because eventually years.
And even the warden, you kind of have a moment of like appreciation because the warden's like, come on, Andy, it's never going to happen. It's like, or the warden could probably advocate for him if he gave a shit.
Oh, that warden doesn't give a shit.
But the warden
emails it for him.
But
that's
the warden
advocation.
is like, I will mail the letters for you.
Yeah.
Which is kind of interesting. It's like it's given the fish a worm, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it ties back to, hey, I'm stealing money hand over fist. So you're doing all that for me. So I will send you the mail.
And this is when times are good, right?
Yeah.
The symbiotic relationship is working for everyone right now.
Right.
Yeah.
So what ends up happening is that a bunch of books show up and a letter from Congress that says, we consider this matter closed. Please don't write us anymore. To which Andy immediately
Here's a bunch
says,
of books and $200.
yeah. And Andy's like, well, I'm going to write him 2 letters a week.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
the
then
one guard is like, well, I believe you will.
Yeah. And so then
it's like, good for you, Andy.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden, a whole shit ton of books show up to the point where it's like, they have to build a new library. It's the biggest it's the biggest prison library in the state.
But don't forget when that first shipment comes.
The record,
the Mozart.
Yeah.
He plays Mozart for Salieri, and that never goes well.
No. And
that's even more interesting.
I know, right? I didn't even know that was like perfect segue. Perfect connection.
And Red, he has no idea what those 2 Italian ladies are singing about, but he figures it's more beautiful than words could even.
It's a cool,
they don't have the words to describe it.
It's a cool moment. It's like they don't. Yes, it's like
it's the one moment of hope.
We all felt like the walls weren't there anymore. It was like so good.
But that rewards Andy with some time in the clink.
Yes.
Well, extra time in the extra clink.
2 weeks in the hole to start.
To which he gets out and he's like, I'm doing great. I'm happy. I'm doing fine. It's
and
like,
then, because this is extremely
because he had
important.
Mozart with him.
Yeah, this is extremely important because he tells Red and the table that the one thing he can hang on to is hope.
Yeah.
Right? They can't take that one thing away from you that's inside you. They can take everything else away, but they can't take that away. And Red is like, hope is dangerous. You don't want hope. And let me see if I can find. Yeah, he basically just says, hope is a dangerous thing. You better get used to that. That's what Red says to Andy. And then Andy says, like Brooks did. That is super important. It's like, if we all just give up on hope, then we'll all basically die, right? Like, if we get out of here, we'll kill ourselves. If we get,
stay frosty, my friends.
Yeah, you got to stay frosty.
Stay thirsty, my friends.
That was on the roof.
That was Stroh's, by the way, on the roof. I don't know if you caught that. I caught the link.
I don't always put tar on roofs, but when I do, I drink Stroh's.
I drink Stroh's.
But yeah, as a result of all this, Andy gives Red a harmonica, right? To try to get him to bring that hope back to himself. And Red's like, I'm not going to play this now. And he plays one note the whole movie, which is kind of surprising. I expected to hear him play it again, but he does not.
I kind of appreciate that so much because that's when you get into like saccharine melodrama.
I wanted a big old musical moment with them dancing around,
like blowing on it when he got on the bus,
just
or
rocking on it,
or the beach, or the beach.
It would have just
like
been
walking
so
up to him with it.
It would have been so bad. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was kind of funny.
But the sentiment of it, is what was powerful, right?
That's what counts. Yeah.
Because he had to. He said, I had to go. I had to go to one of your competitors to get it.
I hope you don't mind. I had to go to one of your competitors. I wanted it to be a surprise.
It's kind of funny because like there's a heavy element of, and I didn't really think about it, and it's not something I've heard from people when they've been reviewing Joker 2. There's a big element of Shawshank in that.
Interesting.
There are two places that movie takes place: the prison and in court.
Yeah.
And all the prison scenes is kind of built the same way, where there's like a group of guys, there's an oppressive group of, and it just makes me like that movie even less now.
Oh, geez.
Because it fails. It fails in trying to say anything.
Yeah.
Whereas this is saying something in every single line and every single moment of this movie.
Yes, it is, and it's all working towards something. It's all
right. And
there's a crescendo to be had, and we get one early, like the crescendo of the opera, right?
Yes.
And then there's punishment. And then we get new hope. That is a dangerous hope. It's almost like a naive hope.
Yeah. So take us there
next, because what we get is a new inmate, Tommy, who he's there, I think, for like burglary or something.
B&E, that's breaking and entering.
Breaking and entering, yeah. And because he tells a story about the TV.
Yeah.
He's like, his officer's like, drop it, put your hands in the air. And he's like, if I drop the TV, officer, you'll get me for damaging property too.
Yeah.
Which gets all the guys like laughing.
But the one guy, Andy, does not like Tommy.
No.
At first.
No, Andy doesn't like Tommy, but everybody else does. Red's like, we liked him immediately. But you're right, Andy doesn't. But Tommy,
because he tells Tommy, you better get a new profession because you're really bad at what you're doing. Because he talks about all the prisons he spent time in. He spent time in every prison in Maine. Shawshank was the last one to mark off the list.
He's giving Tommy a little bit of tough love, right?
Because he sees him as a smarter kid than the rest of them.
He does. And Tommy comes to Andy and he tells him that he wants to get his high school equivalency, his GED, and he's like, I don't waste my time on losers. Yeah. Tommy's like, what do you mean? I'm not a loser. And he's like, I think you're a loser. And he's like, if you're going to do this, you have to go in 100%. I'm not going to waste my time. And he is. He's like a great student. He's like an amazing student. And like Red said, he's like, this Tommy was Andy's new project. Like if the library is a success, now Tommy is his new project. And he's going to make sure Tommy succeeds. And Tommy takes the GED. He has a meltdown at the end. He's like, I fucking failed it horribly, and throws.
You know how he knows he passed, though? You know how I knew he passed?
How?
Because the shit he shouts out in his rage is correct.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
He's like 5 times 5 is 25, and whatever he says, I'm like,
totally.
He passed.
You're totally right.
Totally
right. And he does. Like he doesn't like. Yeah, he does. But anyway, what happens though that is tragic and sad is Tommy talks to Red about what Andy's background is. And what is he in for? He's like, well, he was a banker, big shot banker. His wife was cheating on with a tennis pro, and he waxed them both. And this Tommy is like, whoa, this is weird. These are specific details that I have heard before, right? And then he sits down with Red and Andy, and he tells them about somebody he did time with. I was like, who is that actor? Because he's so creepy. Every time I see this scene, I'm like creeped out. Like his laugh.
He's like half shrouded.
It's like Joker laugh, right? Oh, yeah. It's so gross and creepy. But this guy tells him that he was casing out a country club, and he had zeroed in on this one like tennis pro, and he went to go rob their house one night.
He was a golf pro.
Golf pro. He went to go rob his house and realized that he didn't realize they were home, but they were home, and it was like I killed him, and I killed his girlfriend too. And the best part of it all is they pinned it on the husband who she was cheating on, and he's like gives this toothy, creepy laugh, and it's like, oh shit, those are some specific details. And Tommy, who has like accepted Andy almost as his father at this point, right? Like father, mentor, teacher. He's like Socrates to Tommy at this point. It's like, I'll do whatever I have to do to help exonerate him, right?
Yeah.
This is where Andy he kind of fucks up. He kind of fucks up here. He trusts too much in the warden.
Or he underestimates him. I think he underestimates him a little bit. But maybe
I think both of those things happen at the same time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I don't think, and then Andy, like, almost as an afterthought, is like, oh, I won't ever say anything about the fucking horribly, like, the basically, like, the money laundering that's going on. I won't say anything about that. It's like, dude,
don't you ever talk about money or anything in this office again? Because he just called him obtuse.
He called him obtuse. Yeah,
that's a very, very Stephen King word.
It is, but it's also like him pitting his intellect against the warden. And then also the warden is like, well, he is smart, and he knows he's smart. And I cannot allow this. I can't, like, come on, Andy. Like, come on.
You have to know he's not going to let you out of this prison.
Four plays ahead here. Yeah. It's Andy's worst moment.
He should have been sending letters with the deposit letters.
Yeah.
Instead.
Yeah. They're anything.
To whomever that needs to hear this shit.
Request a lawyer. I mean, he's in prison. He can file for an appeal. Right? He could talk to a lawyer. Like it's like the worst way of going about this.
Well, as we know or as we find out soon, I think even if Andy requested a lawyer, he would have met a bad demise.
Probably.
Because once the shit was compromised, you know what the warden does to people, right? Because he brings Tommy outside, which you immediately know is fucking bad.
Yeah, it's so bad.
And he's like, and even Tommy knows.
Well, yeah. Even before that, he puts Andy in the hole.
Oh yeah, he was in the hole already
for calling him obtuse.
Obtuse, he goes to the hole for a month. Yeah.
Yeah, and he calls Tommy outside, and he's playing like the sympathetic guy. Like, we need to have this conversation. Like, I need to know.
But before that, which was a really nice moment. Before that, while Andy's in the hole, is he finds out that Tommy passed his GED.
Yeah, the one guard passes his bread
along. Yeah.
Which is like, it's like the confirmation that Andy is as important as Red now.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's like that kernel of hope. Like, good things can happen here.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. But then a really bad thing happens.
Yes. The warden brings Tommy outside. He says, I need to know that if you're put in front of a judge, if you're going to swear by this information. And Tommy's like, anything to help
Just
Andy.
Give me the chance. Like, he thinks the warden's on his side too, and it's like, oh, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah, and then the warden's like, I think he said, I knew you were going to say that or something like that. And he starts to walk away.
He looks up.
And he looks up and he kind of gives a nod or something, you know.
And I can't remember if it's Hadley. Is it Hadley?
Yeah.
That does it? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
He was kind of shrouded a little bit too. But yeah, he shoots him 4 times.
Yep.
kills his ass. And then Warden goes down to Andy. Oh my God. And he opens
a month in a hole, and he tells him. Yeah.
He's like, I'm sure you heard he tried to escape, and that's really sad. And then Andy's like, I'm done with this. I'm not doing your shit anymore. He's like, oh, you're not doing your shit anymore? Brick by brick, I'm going to block that library and whatever else he says to him. And he's like, am I still being obtuse?
Yeah, I'll give you another month to think about it.
Yeah, and then he says, I'll give him another month to think about it. Oof.
2 months. So one thing, just a small note. Everyone said a month was the longest they'd ever heard anyone had been in there.
Yeah.
Like even when Boggs did what he did, he only got 2 weeks.
I think it was a week for Boggs. I think it was 1 week.
1 week or 2 weeks. Still, it's a month and a half less than what Andy gets here.
Yeah.
I mean,
at the very least.
1 week. In real life, 1 week is damaging to one's psyche.
I can't imagine.
I mean, it's
being in a dark room and like with nothing, peeing on yourself, probably.
It's crazy.
Eating a piece of bread and getting a coffee a day or whatever they're giving them. Like, it's horrifying.
It's inhumane. To think of. Yeah, it's horrible.
Yeah, because the one sympathetic guard is like, hey, just let you know the kid passed. You know, so it's all. Yeah,
but that's the most he can do.
Yeah,
any of the sympathetic people can do.
But anyway, so when he gets out, he's broken at this point. To which Red notices. Well, yeah, and Red is like, something ain't right with because this is the whole point where this is the big dramatic crescendo where he's basically saying to Red, it's like, it's like you got to get busy living or get busy dying. Yep. That's it. Those are the only two things you can do at this point.
Yep.
To which Red takes that the way that he is kind of conditioned to being in prison for so long, which is Andy's on suicide watch because it's that night that Red says is the longest night of his entire time in prison.
Yeah, Chuck, tell us what happens right before this. That's really important.
Yes, because Andy makes Red make a promise to him.
Yeah.
That he will go to a certain tree by a certain I think he said hayfield. It's unimportant.
Buxton is where he's going.
Yes, and it's a certain landmark, a big tree that I think might have been in Forrest Gump too. It looks like
I don't know. It is. There is. I mean, it is a place that people go to now, though.
I'm sure
because of this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he says it looks like a Robert Frost poem, and he could not be more right.
Yeah. Yeah. You're absolutely correct. Yeah.
I'm like, holy shit, that does look like a Robert Frost poem.
He also, tells him that he needs to look for a rock, a piece of black quartz. That doesn't belong there. It wouldn't belong there in a million years.
Yeah, it has no earthly business being there.
Shines like a mirror.
And look for what's underneath it. He also tells him about his dream of Zawataneo.
Oh, I was about to ask you to pronounce that.
Zawataneo. Zawataneo. I think that's pretty close. Zawataneo.
Yeah, you did good.
Hey, it's close. It's good enough.
I did it, guys. And that he would like to go there, buy a hotel, live on the beach, fix up a boat, and take people out for charter fishing. And just wants to live a quiet life. He feels like he would deserve it.
And it's I don't know if it's a
He's like, I got my wife killed. He's like, I wasn't a good husband. I wasn't.
You drove her away, and that's what got her killed.
I drove her to him, and she died. If I had been better, I would have, and Red is kind of like, well, you're not guilty of killing her. You're guilty of maybe being a bad husband. And he's like, but that's what got her killed. But he also says that I feel like I've paid back my debt in spades, right? Like I've, whatever I'm guilty of in this life, I've paid it back and then some. But he's broken. He's seemingly broken. Red sees him as broken. It's like he's done. He's giving me his last will and testament, right? His hopes and dreams. his like go here when I die, right? He's like, it's a litany of.
That's all how Red is hearing it.
It's a litany of red flags. Yeah. Yeah.
But it's all how Red is hearing it, because what in reality, what Andy is saying is, I'm going to go to this place. I'm going to have a hotel. So I think there's a little bit who is telling the story, coloring how Andy said it.
Yeah, I get the impression we're seeing it like Morgan Freeman is. Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Hears it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
I also wouldn't put it past Andy to be like, I want to give him as much plausible deniability as possible.
Absolutely. Sure.
Andy is like, look, I'm about to break out of prison, right? This might not go well. I might die doing it. This is still important information for Red to know, right?
Right. Well,
but that's the thing, though. Yeah, right. If he doesn't get out, he doesn't put anything under that rock.
Right.
That's true too.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he knows.
So he's pretty damn confident.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because wouldn't that be a piece of shit? Wouldn't that be the saddest thing ever?
Well, he's already got to crawl through a pipe of shit for 500 yards.
Ever is if he didn't make it, and then Red went
and there's nothing there.
To the stone wall, and there was nothing there. That would suck, man.
Yeah.
And then he'd be like, who's going to drive me back to town?
That's exactly how you ruin this movie is Andy dies in the shit pipe or something.
Yep.
Yep.
He got his shit piped a lot, and then he dies in a shit pipe.
Oh, man, he just slowly decays, and nobody ever finds him. It's like, oh, God.
So what happens?
This is like one of the best moments in all of film.
Oh, this last 30 minutes is pretty much like perfect.
You can tell that Andy has done some kind of switcheroo in the warden's safe. And then he polishes the shoes of the warden. He walks back to his room. You see him sitting on the bed contemplating. And then the next morning comes.
Yeah, because this is when Red narrates, it was the longest night.
And he's trying to hype us up to thinking that Andy's going to kill himself, right?
And Andy does not come out of his cell.
Yep. Uh-oh.
So if you don't know, you'd think maybe he's hanging in there because he had asked for 6 feet of rope from Haywood.
Yep. And Red's like, you gave it to him? You dumb shit. Or somebody says, and you gave it to him? After hearing Red's story, yeah. And he's like, well, I didn't know.
I think that's why it's a little bit of Red's perception too, because nobody else was catching on to Andy being suicidal.
Yeah, right? Until Red told them. Yeah, because Red can spin a story, as it turns out.
Yeah, one of the best ever. But so Andy doesn't come out of the cell, and then a guard walks in, and then you find out that Andy has just fucking disappeared. He has disappeared off the face of the earth, and they're like, talk to his one friend. And then they bring Red in, and they're like, and the smirk that's on Morgan Freeman's face is like everything.
It's kind of like perfect because it's sort of a smirk, but just barely. He's playing dumb really well here.
He's playing dumb, but he's also
he's bewildered by
because it's like he
was dead.
Yeah. I mean, well, and also on top of that, where is he now? It's like a magic trick.
Yes,
you can see that smirk is his gears turning.
Right.
Like what could have possibly happened?
Because he knows Andy's smart. He knows Andy didn't kill himself now.
Yeah.
And he's trying to piece it all together. Yep.
Right.
Yes.
Yep.
It's just a great little smirk that's like everything. Right? It's everything he's thinking.
Yeah.
It's an Academy Award nominated smirk.
Fuck
yes. Yeah. Yes. And then the warden starts throwing his little pieces of flair around the room.
Oh yeah.
His little rocks.
Andy's rocks around.
His pieces of flair. All the space jokes. Sorry.
Yeah. I know.
But then he turns and he throws one at
Raquel Welch.
Raquel Welch is up there now.
Raquel Welch, yeah.
And you could just hear it rip through the paper and
then tumble.
Editing amazing, tumbling and then hitting a piece of metal somewhere.
Yeah.
And when they rip down the poster,
Oh my God. The three heads looking into it is just fucking great.
It's great. Like, I don't know how many times they worked on that, but it's so good.
I love the shot so much where he reaches in, and then
between the rip.
Then there's the shot of inside the wall of his hand, and the grabbing the poster and pulling it out.
It's so good.
It's so good. Like, that is just a wonderfully simple, beautiful shot.
And then you see all their faces, and like Morgan Freeman in the back, still with that smirk on his face.
Yeah, it's like, holy shit.
God.
He's almost cheesing now. Yeah.
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 Yeah, it just grows like bigger and bigger as shit goes on.
Yep.
And now it's evident that Andy left.
Yep.
And then Red, in a bit of foreshadowing, is able to explain how it happened. There's only one way he could know that.
Right.
Right. But he basically said, early on when Andy was there, a fleck of the wall came down, and he realized
he was describing his name like he'd seen other people do.
Yes, that's right. That's right. And a little piece came on, and it's like, holy shit, this place is built with like fucking stucco or something. It's like mud. It's a mud hut.
They just knocked 10,000% of the time off of what Red thinks it would take to do this.
Yeah, because they think, because
it's like wet limestone, basically.
Yeah, because it crumbles in his hand to dust.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when he asked for the little hammer, which he has now worn down.
He had already had the hammer.
He was using the hammer. His hammer was,
to describe it. Like, the hammer was really just to cut rocks.
It was genuine. It was a genuine request.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
The poster, however.
Right. So then he asked for the poster, and then every night he's just chiseling away. He hears somebody move or cough or something. He looks out from under the poster and he gets back to work.
Yep.
And then he eventually gets yeah, go right ahead.
I'm very sorry. I want to say one thing here, because the movie astoundingly pays very good attention to detail, because Andy looks tireder and tireder and tireder throughout the movie.
That is true.
Yeah. So he's spending more and more time every night digging and not sleeping.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That might be part of why he's kind of a grumpy Gus to Tommy when he shows up.
Probably.
He's like, sleeping. I'm fucking tired, and this kid with this fucking the sideburns coming in.
That's a real. I've never actually thought about that, but yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's a good point, Chuck. And then, it's like all he could do was sleep in the hole, but he didn't. All he was doing is waiting to get out so that he could get out. But anyway.
Planning.
Yeah. Just constantly running over the plan.
Like Birdman of Alcatraz,
Because he also needs a perfect night to execute this escape, as you're going to explain in the second year, Jeff.
Because as he crawls through, he eventually gets in between the walls where there is the shit pipes. All the plumbing is in between the walls. And it just so happens it's a thunderstorm. So he takes a giant rock, and every time lightning strikes and thunder strikes, he hits the pipe until all the shit in the shit pipe sprays up into his face.
The shit pipe.
Yeah. And then as Red puts it, he had to crawl through something
it was 5 football fields of shit pipe.
But before that, though, he says the thing about, Andy had to crawl through something that smelled like, I can't remember exactly what it was. But anyway, he crawled.
Even Red was like, I don't even want to imagine it.
Right. He's the original Anima Man. Like, this is the inspiration for your show.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it's pretty much. And, I mean, someday if copyright catches up, maybe I will be in Shawshank. Anyway, because I ain't going to be able to pay the bill. So anyway, he crawled 500 yards through shit to come out clean on the other side.
That's the equivalent of 5 football fields.
So he gets out into the lake. He basically is able to take a shower thanks to the rainstorm.
Yeah,
and he's got all sorts of
it and raise his hands in an epic shot.
It's something you put. He's like, you know what? I think we need this for the trailer, so I better do it. And so he does it.
That's one of 3 like iconic shots.
Super
them looking
iconic,
through the wall.
Yep.
Him doing that in the rain, and then one earlier I'm forgetting right now. But yeah.
Yeah. So So basically he explains that, it's like, the warden basically was using him as his housekeeper, wanted him to shine his shoes, so he put them on. Nobody looks at the feet of a prisoner. The dry cleaning that the warden wanted to do, he just took it.
Yeah. I have a question though. Why does it matter that he's wearing those shoes?
Because he's got to look good to go to the bank. Those shoes are
they
shitty.
were in the bag. They were in the bag.
Yep. And he's got to have the suit and the shoes to look like he is going to withdraw $370,000.
It's not like he's a foot taller than the warden or anything, but still,
right.
Good point. Right. Yeah.
Well, but at the same time, though, he said he had explained that the money was just sitting in the bank. The warden wasn't ever touching it, and it all belonged to somebody with his own imagination.
Chuck was just saying it's fine. The suit wouldn't fit. The shoes probably wouldn't fit.
If the suit doesn't fit, you must have quit.
It must have
Yes, he'd set this up specifically for this escape because he put it in the name of a man who has a license that's fabricated, who has everything that's fabricated.
And
Andy had it
all the info.
He can be
everything.
And he switched out the Bible, and the ledger was swapped out, so that he had the ledger that he mails to the newspaper.
And it's the best because it's like the best, like, fuck you, fist up your ass moment.
Yeah, the thing I used to escape is in your Bible, bro.
Oh, and it's like, you were right. He even inscribed it. You were right. Salvation does lie within. And he opens it, and it's the impression of the, like, he cut out.
Yes, that's the salvation. Well, that's where he kept it. That's where he kept it.
I know he kept the rock hammer in there in the Bible. Yeah. I got to tell you this. This was also the reason why I and many other kids at boarding school cut out the hollowed out books to keep contraband.
I was going to say that.
School. Yeah, I still have it, and I think the name of my book, I chose an ironically titled book for mine, and it was like There Will Be Light is the name of my book, and I still have it. It's in my house. Well, it's a hollowed out book. Yeah, the title is There Will Be Light. Was it
a little pipe or something that was in it?
I used to keep like my cigarettes in there. It was big enough for
cigarettes.
Anything. It was big enough for my Walkman. Yeah. Some cassette tapes or whatever, yeah.
No doubt that was the inspiration for you kids, right? Like if you'd seen this movie and did that. Is this like one of the first uses of that?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
Count of Monte Cristo, which they call back to, probably. I don't know.
Like Count of Monte Cristo?
It's been a long time since I've read that, but I'm pretty sure that had some kind of shit like that in it.
Yeah, so you'd love that book. Why? It's about a prison break.
Shouldn't it be the educational section?
Yeah, right, yeah. That's a good story. Anyway, so basically, Andy has gone and gotten the fan. He's off. He's off. Red is left behind, and he basically, like, he's there for another year, basically. And he talks about how much he misses his friend. He doesn't know what happened to him, but he hopes that he's doing fine. But mostly he
knows what happened to him.
Wow.
He got a postcard.
Oh yeah, that's right. He got an unsigned, unwritten, but just addressed a postcard from Fort something, Texas, which happened to be just on the border.
Yeah.
Yes,
so he's like, he made it.
Crossed.
Yep, that's where he crossed. But in time, the investigation rocks the whole thing. The police come rolling up. And immediately arrest Hadley, which Red says that he wasn't there to see it, but apparently as soon as he was arrested, he started crying like a little girl.
Yep.
And then they come to arrest the warden. Warden is arming a revolver, much the same as we saw at the beginning.
Yep.
And the police say, "Make it easy on yourself," and boy does he. Boy howdy. Makes it a little too easy for himself.
Yeah.
Hadley is going to get fucked with hard in prison. when he shows up.
He's gonna
somebody's cousin's gonna be where he's at, and it's not gonna be good for him.
Nope.
And then, but the warden blows his own brains out, and there's seemingly there's almost a renaissance at Shawshank. Everybody seems happier after, except for Red, who misses his friend.
But there's also a renaissance in the parole board.
Absolutely. Talk about it, Chuck.
Jason,
we've
you
already
had
talked about
a thought about this. Did you want to talk, or should I just do it?
Well, I think it's just I love the three scenes, the difference between each of them, the contrast, where he's like hopeful and maybe just I can tell them what they want to hear and I'll get out.
A little bit Andy Dufresne.
Yeah. And
the
then
first
the
one.
second time it's kind
cynicism.
of it's this he's like, doesn't matter what I'm going to say. They're not going to let me out.
He says the same things, but it's instead of the lilt upwards, it all ends on a down note.
He knows it's not going to make any difference. It's still cynicism. And then the third time, he's like, fuck it. I'm going to tell him exactly how I feel, right? And
it's a little bit Breakfast Club.
A little bit Breakfast Club. A little bit like, what does it matter? I'm an old man now.
But there is one key thing he does say, though, that he didn't say the other two times.
That
he actually think if he could go back and tell
himself.
Right. It's he's actually showing remorse, even though he's angry at the system and what's happened and where he's at and being there for 40 years.
Yep.
He actually does say the most important thing straight from the heart, and they kind of are left silent. And then there's a note made, stamp approval, and he's on his way out.
Yep.
Gets the same job in the same apartment as Brooks.
Yep.
10 years later.
And you hope immediately that the result is different. And it is.
Well, yeah. I mean, he walks past the pawn shop. He thinks about buying a gun, but he decides to buy what?
A compass. A compass.
Very important that he gets a compass.
Yes, because he needs to find where the rock is.
He's got to go to Buxton.
Yep. And he does make the walk, the same Brooks walk up the step onto the desk, inscribes his name. So was Red, right? I think is what it says. And then he makes his way. He finds a note from Andy, and a box which did it have the chess pieces? What was in the box? Money, obviously, and I think the chess pieces he made.
Something like that. But yeah, basically, I hope you remember the name of the place, to which he says out loud.
Saskatchewan.
Yeah.
What was it?
Lake Cucamonga.
Zawataneo.
You're so much better at that than I would be.
Zawataneo.
He's the one guy who shouldn't be.
I know.
It should be us.
That's irony. I love it.
Yeah. But he gets on a bus. He's hanging his head out the window like a dog, basically. Like he's
free.
Talking about how he's feeling free.
Yeah, and he is doing one thing that would have sent him back to prison. He's breaking his parole. He says
they
flight.
I doubt they'll put up any roadblocks for an old crook like me. Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Oh, it's so good. And then probably one of the smartest decisions in this movie is when he walks up to him. They hug, or like they're walking up and the camera starts panning out. Instead of giving us that weird little exchange and, whatever they say to each other, it doesn't matter.
None of it
we
matters.
Already know.
Yeah.
And it's panning out as they hug and then are like shaking each other like, you made it. Whatever is said in that moment is not important.
Well, here's kind of what I was thinking about with that ending, because like the last lines of the movie are, basically, it's like, I think it's the excitement only a free man can feel, a free man at the start of a long journey whose conclusion is uncertain. I hope I can make it across the border. I hope to see my friend and shake his hand. I hope the Pacific is as blue as it has been in my dreams. I hope.
So almost dreamlike.
Yeah. And so with that ending, with those lines, they could end this any way they wanted. We can see them get together, which is what we get. They could cut to black after he says, I hope the Pacific is as blue as it has been in my dreams, and then cut to black and then him say, I hope. And then you just say, he made it. You just say, hey, he made it. Great. Or
because he's saying that as he runs into him, it has not happened yet.
Yeah,
the other option. Like, it's him imagining their reunion. Not.
Yeah, maybe it's him. Maybe he says that as he sees the tree. So there's all sorts of different ways that you could end this that would be perfect. There is no wrong ending to this movie, because one of the things, and this was one of the things that I can't remember if it was Ebert or Siskel in that old clip said, it's like, in a lesser movie, all of the things that they do in this movie to make you feel something would be would hurt the movie. But this movie is so good because of the characters that all of those things work, because you want them to work. You are feeling their hopelessness, and you are hoping for their hope, basically, is what they're saying. And it's like, in lesser movies, it would be kind of laughed off or dismissed as being saccharine or silly. But it works really because it works.
But what really matters here is that Red is saying, I hope, I hope, because he said hope was wrong.
Yep.
Earlier in the movie. It's fucking brilliant. And this movie is fucking brilliant.
It really is. And it works in every possible way it can work, because it is a relationship or is a movie about a relationship in a place where you would not think a relationship like this could be.
Well, and it might take 20 years to get there.
Like, sure. But I mean, but at the same
time to build this. I get what you're saying.
Yeah, right. But we feel it. Like, it feels real. It feels, and it feels good. I mean, like, these are, and this is Tim Robbins at probably his absolute height of the movies he was in at that point, from Bull Durham a few years before to now. Or to that one.
This is his best movie.
Yeah, I mean, he was working his way up through Bull Durham, and then The Player, and then was he already Bob Roberts at this point too? Maybe,
I don't know, but he is perfect. Like, Morgan Freeman and he are perfect for these roles.
And there is and it's everybody is cast so perfect in this.
This is one of the first episodes we've ever done where we haven't talked about who else might have been up for roles, and I think there's a good reason for that.
Yeah, because they're all cast perfectly.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter
who else is thought about.
Yeah, I don't care if Tom Cruise was considered. Doesn't matter. It's Tim Robbins, and that's all that matters. And because he was the right guy for this.
Yeah, it's just, I like it better than I did the first time I watched it, but I think it's as important as it's ever been.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a good movie.
Well, and it's a movie about prisoners that you genuinely care about them, not because of anything that they did as being glamorized. Does that make sense?
Yes, there's an important aspect of this movie. One, to shine a light on criminal justice and what that is in this country, even today. But then also that even the worst people are still human beings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right?
Well, which is funny because, Red calls one of the sisters.
Anyone of their humanity is a detriment to society.
How do you rehabilitate through that? Like, there's no...
Yeah,
there's no way the rehabilitation of Red. That's I think another important point. And sorry to steal here. It had nothing to do with the system. It was all Andy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. Like, it had nothing to do with what they were making him read, what they were making him do, what the system wanted for him. It was his relationship with Andy that rehabilitated him.
Well, Andy made all of those prisoners that we met at the beginning see things in a different way. It's like they could be a little bit more alive. It's like, God, Haywood, all he wanted was a whole stack of Hank Williams Sr. albums.
Oh my God, that scene where he's singing is so fucking funny.
Yeah.
It's so funny. But yeah, I mean, and Andy, the joke in the movie is that everyone's innocent there, but I think Andy's innocence is important too, because Stephen King likes to write about the loss of innocence and what innocence is, and putting an innocent like in a different context, right? He's innocent in a different context, but it's still impactful on other people.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's just Stephen King, like, I don't even know if he knows he's doing that. He must. But it's good. It's good writing.
He's just so good at putting strange bedfellows together and letting their relationship breathe. Like, I don't know how he's so good at that, but that is one of his greatest gifts. Is I've always thought, like, if ever I'm like in a situation where I'm just like destitute and on the road and like at my wit's end, like I want to end up, actually do want to end up in a Stephen King movie, because I'll end up in a small town where people see something in me and give me a chance and allow me to like crawl back out of the depths of despair.
Or get a bungalow where you're forced to live with like 5 other people. Or like, right?
But he just is so good at writing characters like that. Like those characters are just like at their lowest possible point to their self-actualization. It's just, yeah.
I would probably not want to live in Salem's Lot, though.
Well, I would walk through. I'd try to go around it, maybe.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the good news is that I'm
out of there, but I'd go.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, because we all know I would end up being like the Jeffrey Lewis of the. It's not just my spelling of my name; that's my lot in life in Salem's Lot. But
Salem's Lot in life.
But yeah, it's like I would do Derry because I'm too old now to be gotten by it. I go Derry.
Yeah, but the people who hate certain people might beat the shit out of you on a bridge or something.
I take
I'm not
my
calling
chances.
you any type of person, but
I'm going to take my chances against the Stephen King level
punks.
Hooligans. I do find it interesting that a lot of analysis around this does make it a Christian mysticism kind of analogy,
which is weird
because we know that Stephen King has no interest in that. But it does kind of make sense if Andy is kind of looked at as kind of like a Jesus-like character that actually brings hope to Shawshank, that kind of, and then he eventually absconds, and it is kind of, I mean, there is something there, I think.
Stephen King does deal a lot in Christianity and Catholicism, though, so I wouldn't discount that idea. Like, read Revival and you'll get all of it, right? But he does deal in it, and I think that's a reason that Flanagan's Black Mass is what it is because of Stephen King's writings, probably.
Oh yeah.
So there usually is a religious character in a lot of his books, and an alcoholic, and it is very like 1950s, 1960s movies. Like, who's your favorite alcoholic in movies? What the hell's his name? He was in one of your favorite movies.
Alicia Cook Jr.
Yes. Oh yeah.
He's in every Stephen King book, probably.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because he's also in Salem's Lot, proving that he and Jeffrey Lewis are two different people.
But my last takeaway from this is I need to watch The Green Mile again because it's been a long time, and it's another.
That was one I did see in theaters. I saw it at Eastgate.
In the theater. I saw that in the theater. My fear for that one is it gets a little bit too saccharine.
Probably. But I haven't watched it in long enough to remember.
It's been a while. Yeah.
That's my last thought on this movie. I did it. I don't know if you guys did it, but I did it.
I'm good.
I'm good. I did it. I dig it.
Me too.
What's next, Jeffrey Arbuckle?
Next week is Thanksgiving, right? Next Thursday here in the United States, it's Thanksgiving. And, it's the time when you invite people over. So I figure we should invite the guest.
Oh, buddy.
Yes.
Yeah. There you go. That's it. That's all we got. We're going to do the guest. Yeah. What do you want?
We're going to get a little mean on Thanksgiving, and I like it.
Hey, man. Hey, you know what? After Creed, Rain Man, and Shawshank makes us feel real good, let's knock it down a little bit. Let's get a little mean.
You can't be too happy.
Yeah. Well, we'll be happier next month. I promise. We'll have grins and joys all through next month. I promise, Jason. Don't let me down.
Yeah. Well, what does that mean? I put some pressure on.
Yeah. Anyway, so that is Wednesday, November 27th, just in time for turkey and gobble gobbles. Mm-hmm. We have the guest. Go to filmseizure.com, find all the places you can subscribe to us, follow us, all that good stuff. Also next week on Monday, Monster Mondays has the Dawn of the Mummy.
Ooh.
It's a silly little movie, but it's kind of fun. I like it. So that is Mondays, all the same places, filmseizure.com. This upcoming Friday at my website, bmovieanima.com, I have a review of Best Friends. Kind of a frustrating movie. I like it. I like half of it. Then it gets frustrating.
I still haven't watched that one.
Yeah. But hey, you know what? If Vinegar Syndrome is going to start releasing shit like Congo, get it while it's good when it comes to their exploitation shit.
What is happening? Ugh. Yeah. For real.
What was the other one that they're releasing that was like, why are you doing that one for? It's another like.
They did Gorgo. That was what you were kind of.
Well, Gorgo, I can dig Gorgo, but there was something else that's being released this year, right with the same day as Congo, and I was like, what? That one? It's like
Looking
that's
an
for
artsy. Mr. Goodbar.
That's it. It's like,
dude, that has been like the most requested movie by like film bros for years.
Why? Because Diane Keaton gets naked?
That's a huge.
Is that it?
I don't know exactly why. I've never seen it, but that has been like the most requested movie amongst like film bros for ages. And I'm honestly surprised that we aren't enshrouded in like a cum bubble of ejaculation after it was announced because
it really is satisfying a lot of people's itch. I'll be less crude than Jason.
No, enveloped in a cum bubble wasn't good.
That was maybe that was a little too accurate, Jason.
Maybe. But I don't know. I haven't seen it. It's coming on my subscription. I'll watch it. I'm kind of excited.
I'm excited for all of it. I'm gonna get.
Don't get excited for Congo. Congo sucks.
Congo though. Fuck.
I've seen Congo.
Oh my god, Congo.
I mean, Jodan Baker is Bruce. Is Bruce Campbell's dad.
Oh, and it's still as bad. Yeah,
it's still bad. It's like you think that's gonna. It's like wow, Mitchell and fucking Evil Dead. Ash. Yeah. Anyway, fuck it. We're out of here.
Nice little segue.
So until next time, Jeff was here.
Chuck was too.
And so was Jason. And you've been listening to Film Seizure.
That's how you podcast, bro.
and that's podcasting.
Maybe not an Academy Award conclusion there, but
we're gonna
good
lose
enough.
Did you say Academy Awarden?